8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
4-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to NewsWire on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We got a fun show planned for you for the next hour. Sports betting information, topics covered as well. The business of sports betting. We have our guest contributor each and every day from Legal Sports Report. Mike Mazzeo will be with us. Of course, discussion of the NBA Finals and also discussion of the Stanley Cup Finals as well. We got a lot to get to here on the show today. Let's get started. Will it be a series? Meaning, will it be exciting at all in the NBA Finals? The Boston Celtics are now up 2-0 in the NBA Finals in a game that basically looked like Boston dominated from start to finish. Now, let's be honest here. If you look at the point spread, Dallas did end up covering the 7, or I guess 7.5, but the odds makers were spot on. 6.5 in some spots. I saw 7 in some spots, which would be a push. 7.5 in some others. Needless to say, the Mavericks are up against it. Generally speaking, you don't go down 0-2 and come back and win an NBA Finals series. We'll discuss what is to come for Game 3. By the way, Dallas a very slight favorite in that game as well. But circling back to the events that we saw last night, right now the Celtics are flying high, and Joe Mazzulla, the head coach of the Celtics, is leading the way, saying they're staying humble in order to try and capture this championship.
Yeah, before that, I think the play of the game can't go unnoticed. The humility of our team is Peyton's shot at the end of the quarter, and you see guys around the league pass up on that shot or fake like they want to take it, and so that their numbers don't get messed up. And he takes pride in taking that, and that's winning basketball. So that's the first and foremost. That should have been the first question: is the ability of our everybody on our team to do different things that lead to winning. So I'm really tired of hearing about one guy or this guy or that guy, and everybody trying to make it out to be anything other than Celtic basketball. And everybody that stepped on that court tonight made winning plays on both ends of the floor. That's the most important thing. And then to answer your question, Jason makes greatness look easy. He does it in a lot of different ways. He does it on defense. He does it on rebounding. Does it on passing. Does it on screening. He's a tremendous player. It's hard to coach him, and he has the ability to affect the game in different ways. We're a different team, but it takes everybody to do it.
Tatum, big game last night for the Celtics. And obviously the Celtics did not go wild like they did in Game 1 with a 29-point lead against Dallas. But it was the defense this time of the Celtics in at least a little bit of a closer game that held them down. And that's what Jason Tatum said led them to the Game 2 victory.
I think we responded really well. They're not the way their defense is set up and how much they're loading up and converging at the rim. It just puts us in positions to attack and find the easy kick-out reads and just to keep the ball popping and things like that so we can get good to great shots on each and every possession.
Meanwhile, right now, the Mavericks will be looking for a better performance when they head back to the Lone Star State in Game 3. Luka Doncic has done everything he possibly can to keep the team in the game. Kyrie Irving has struggled a bit, but Luka says basically right now they have to keep their poise and hope they can come out with a better result next game.
Yeah, I mean, they're that's why they're the number one team in the NBA with the number one record. They have a lot of great players. Basically, anybody can get off. So, honestly, I think we didn't do a bad job defending today. We took away some threes. We contested some more threes. But like I said, I had too many turnovers, and we missed a lot of free throws. So I think that cost us the game.
All right, tonight we have a night off from the NBA. We do have the NHL, but maybe we'll get some news in the NBA as far as head coaching is concerned, because it looks like Dan Hurley is closing in on a decision. What that decision is, whether it's to join the Lakers or to stay at Connecticut, still remains to be seen. Right now, Hurley, of course, has to make this key decision because the Lakers have been discussions with other coaches too. One name that we had heard was J.J. Redick, but at this point, no word if he is the favorite, the backup option, or even an option at all. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is not an option for the women's basketball team. Wow, Team USA making the call over the weekend. Naturally, this was met with a lot of skepticism, as Clark, arguably the most popular player right now in the world, but they made some other key decisions to put some other players on the team, and Clark is a rookie in the NBA. Who knows why the decision was made, but the bottom line is that's the deal. Also, some sad news from the National Basketball Association, former member of the Washington Wizards organization. At that time, it was called the Bullets. 7-time All-Star Chet the Jet Walker passes away at the age of 84. The Belmont Stakes goes to a huge underdog and a horse that's owned by a former Major League Baseball player, Jason Worth. Dornock wins the Belmont Stakes over the weekend. Raced in Saratoga, went off as a 17-1 dog. You don't see that often as the Triple Crown Challenge comes to a close. Meanwhile, Scotty Scheffler, despite a triple bogey on Saturday, rallied on Sunday and ended up winning. But my goodness, it wasn't that easy. Scheffler wins the Memorial Tournament ahead of the upcoming U.S. Open. Hideki Matsuyama and everyone else will be playing and trying to capture another title at the U.S. Open. Colin Morikawa as well. We'll have it all for you in coverage coming up this week as we continue on NewsWire. Carlos Alcaraz wins the major again. This time it's the French Open. He ends up winning, didn't have to face Novak Djokovic, who, of course, was out of this earlier last week. Alcaraz wins the championship. He beat Alexander Zverev in 5 sets. I don't think I got that name right, Sam. 3 major championships after the age of 21 years old. Sorry about that, Alexander. All right, the National Hockey League, their games continue tonight. The Panthers won Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Game 2 is tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Panthers played outstanding. Their goaltending was impeccable. We'll see if Edmonton can rally tonight. Right now, Florida is minus 135 on the money line going into this game's affair at Sunrise, and total, I believe, is 5.5, if I'm not mistaken, over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, in Major League Baseball news, more of the same. We'll start off in London. Some very exciting games, by the way, in case you missed them, with the Philadelphia Phillies and New York Mets. They split the 2-game London series, with the Mets winning in comeback fashion. How about it? Every day that goes by, you see more excitement for baseball going on across the world. We saw it this weekend with Bryce Harper, and naturally with the Mets comeback victory as well. We'll see if this is the future of baseball, playing more games in London. Aaron Judge homers again. Feels like we're doing this every single day. Yes, he homered again. The Dodgers took care of the Yankees this weekend in that marquee matchup, but they do avoid the sweep. The Atlanta Braves have now lost 3 of 4 to the Washington Nationals, as the Braves are looking for some added offense to go along with their great pitching staff, which has been really nice for them all season long. Max Scherzer struck out 5 in his second rehab start on Sunday as Scherzer's getting ready to make his return to the Texas Rangers. Remember, Scherzer, a big part of the trade last year when he came over from the New York Mets. Also remember that the Texas Rangers have a pitcher by the name of Jacob deGrom that they could get back for the second half of the season as well. All right, so those are our news notes and headlines as we begin the show. A quick reminder, the SportsGrid app right now is available to download, and you can take out your phone and scan it. That's the QR code, which will give you more information about everything going on here at SportsGrid. As far as all of our shows are concerned, news, notes, information, sports odds, and our entire lineup schedule. That is the SportsGrid app available for iOS and Android. Coming up next here on the show, we'll be joined by Matt Lutovsky. We'll go over the latest in the National Basketball Association and also talk about whether or not we could potentially get a decision from the Los Angeles Lakers later today. Also, we have the SportsGrid sound off, and the top story of the weekend in sports, just generally speaking, had nothing to do with sports betting, but it is the story of Caitlin Clark not being on Team USA with the upcoming Olympics in Paris. So we'll dive into that as well. Then Mike Mazzeo joins us from Legal Sports Report. There's an updated story on Jonte Porter. We'll discuss everything happening with him and as far as some of the stories that have come out as he tries to defend himself with the allegations against him for betting on his own props. That and a whole lot more on this Monday morning edition of NewsWire. We'll take a quick time out and we'll be back breaking down the NBA right after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
20-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got a night off from the NBA because last night the Boston Celtics took care of business against the Dallas Mavericks. They're up 2-0 in the NBA Finals, so certainly the Mavs up against it. But can they get back in it as this moves to Dallas? 105-98, the final yesterday. a push in some spots, 6.5, 7.5, really close. Matt, the odds makers certainly did a great job handicapping this game and setting the odds. I guess what I would ask you is that with a couple of nights to sort of go back, take a look, and determine what they did wrong, can Dallas get themselves back into the series? Because I would guess if they don't win Wednesday night, the series is over. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, that's certainly what it seems like. It's very similar to their last series, only in reverse. I think in this case, though, Boston's just a better team. We're seeing it. They're deeper. They play sound defense. They're more experienced than the Timberwolves, which is allowing them to overcome some of the things Dallas is doing defensively. They're certainly playing better defense on the pick and roll. Luka was great last night, but he had 8 turnovers. And the rest of the team wasn't hitting threes, and they were missing free throws, and that's just going to be a recipe for disaster. I mean, Boston didn't play that well offensively. They didn't shoot the ball well from 3, and Jason Tatum wasn't really scoring, and he was passing well. He was setting up his teammates well, but that was the game they needed to steal. They didn't do it. They really weren't that close in the long run. They made that late push, and yes, there was a foul at the end. They could have been called. It would have made things a lot more interesting, but it wasn't. And Boston was, kind of had a nice lead all second half. So I think if you're Dallas, you're really hoping the home crowd and your role players being better at home and hitting some of those open threes is what propels you. Because right now, it just looks like where do you go? How do you beat this Boston team? They're doing too many things well against us defensively, and they haven't even played that great. Offensively, at least they didn't play that great offensively last game. So it's going to be quite the uphill battle. They need Kyrie to join the party for sure. And I don't know if Boston's defense is going to allow that.
Yeah, no, Boston defensively was the best team in the NBA during the regular season, and the postseason struggled a little bit, but not to the degree that is enough to see Dallas get back into the series. They're going to have to do a total 2-12, by the way, on Wednesday night. So the big story, Matt, over the weekend is Team USA was named for the women's team. And, Matt, I'm old enough to remember the original Dream Team with Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley and Stockton and Malone and Pippen and Bird and Magic and all of these incredible players. And then they just kind of threw Christian Laettner in there, as a top college basketball player in the country. He was on that team, too. And it makes me wonder how in the world was Caitlin Clark this big of an oversight to put on Team USA on so many different levels, and then to just randomly make this announcement as if it's just going to slide under the radar. I mean, just every optic with this is off. The only thing that I guess can save this is just some announcement that she's on the team and we screwed up and that's it. Because beyond that, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's definitely a head scratcher, and I suppose there's multiple ways to look at it. Just from a team building standpoint, you say, well, look, she isn't one of the top 12. She just isn't. She's a rookie. Rookies got to wait their turn. We have some women on the team who have been there for a while, and that's not atypical in other countries with the men or the women, or for our women's team. Now, it is for the men. The men, we just kind of go, okay, who are the best players? Who can we put on the team? But you see this often in other places where someone has Olympic team experience, and that's a big deal. They've been there for a while. They've been there through the build of this team. So there are some women on the team in that situation that I think people look at and say, well, Caitlin Clark should be on the team over them. Well, yes, in the way we look at it. But one thing you're right about is she would bring more eyeballs to the sport and to those games, which at this point I think is very, very important for the women's team. I thought it was interesting, though. USA Today had an article over the weekend where they said one of the reasons that she wasn't picked is she was going to be the 11th or 12th player, and she wasn't going to play that much. And they were worried that there was going to be a lot of blowback about that.
That's fair.
Why isn't Caitlin playing more? And so, it's interesting that they were thinking about the fans, but apparently not in the right way. So at the end of the day, they're going to win gold. They would have won gold whether she was on the team or she isn't. I think for her personally, she might need the rest. I mean, she's been going nonstop for almost 2 years now. And obviously her play this year, while some of the counting stats are really good, overall, the percentages, the turnovers, et cetera, aren't great. So it was a very interesting decision. It created a lot of feedback, to say the least. And she'll be there in 4 years. But, my bottom line opinion is she should have been on the team. I think the women's game needs as many eyeballs as it can get right now, and she brings them. There's no question about that.
Yeah, very odd decision. But, look, some of the things you said do make sense, especially if they didn't play well, then they'd be calling for Caitlin Clark to play if she was coming off the bench. But I got news for you. If they don't play well, they'll be calling for her to play. Then she's not on the team. So I don't know if that would have worked out one way or the other. Okay, so the longer this goes, the more I'm thinking that either Dan Hurley's about to become like the highest paid coach in NBA history, or he's not taking the job, Matt, because there were some off days for this announcement to happen, and it didn't. Naturally, I believe that you would not get an announcement of this magnitude on a day that there's going to be an NBA game. So now there's 2 days without a game, and apparently Dan Hurley's going to decide today what he's going to do. I'm not going to try and guess here because I have no idea, but money's got to be a factor here. I'm guessing that's the only reason why we don't know.
Yeah, I think so. This could be a classic situation where he's stringing this out and he's kind of playing the Lakers to get more money from UConn, where that's where he wants to be anyway. This is a situation where I think anything could happen. And I also think it's a situation where no matter what happens at the end of this season, everyone's going to pretend like, oh, this was so obvious. Of course it was a disaster. Or, of course it was going to work. He's a great coach. But it's the Lakers. I think this is a real tough situation for a guy like Dan Hurley coming straight from college to go into. Going to get a boatload of money anyway. He's got that going for him. He has nothing left to prove in the college game. So, you know, a lot of times you see those guys take their swing in the NBA. But you're right about this being drawn out. Seems like a sign he might go back. But they have other candidates. They certainly have other people they like.
Yeah, they do. All right, Matt, great to catch up with you here on NewsWire. Thanks for coming on.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
20-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're about a little bit over a month away from the Summer Olympics coming up in Paris, and naturally, that's a topic that we will have covered for you. throughout the summer, all of the different events and all the activities. And, for the first time in a while, we're going to have a Summer Olympics where a lot of people are going to be betting on the Summer Olympics as well. So really exciting to have that, especially on basketball, both on the men's and women's side. But the weekend was really interesting because we got word that Team USA's women's basketball team was not going to have Caitlin Clark on it. And we've discussed this now throughout the show. Matt Lutovsky weighing in, and we talked about it in our headlines as well. Now let's check in with one of our hosts here at SportsGrid, Kevin Walsh, who talked about the idea that Caitlin Clark is actually snubbed by being left off the team.
They took Diana Taurasi. I get it. DT's a legend of the game. I understand that. But by bringing Diana Taurasi, you now cannot say they've brought the 12 best players. You can't make that argument. So if it is important to bring Taurasi for the legacy so she can be in her 6th Olympics, it is then more important, honestly, to bring Caitlin Clark. Now, she may end up on this roster if Chelsea Gray is not healthy enough coming off a torn ACL anyway. But that should not be what they are waiting on. Because what you do, by the way, with this, whether you like it or not, is feed into the idea that the rest of this group, the rest of the league, does not like her.
I think Kevin is on. I also think that this story is not over. Something still tells me they're going to find a way to make this right. Look, I'm not rooting for an injury of any kind. I'm just saying before they play in the Olympics, I wouldn't be surprised to see Caitlin Clark's name added to it, given all the blowback there has been from this. Now, going into baseball's regular season, the Atlanta Braves were right with the Los Angeles Dodgers as favored to win the National League. In fact, they were favored to win the division as well. Right now, they're favored to make the postseason, but not favored to win that division. It's been a tough go for the Atlanta Braves. Offensively, they have not gotten it going. And, of course, Ronald Acuna Jr. is out for the season. We check in with Christian DeBlock from our social media team to find out what the Braves need to do to get back to where they've been.
The Atlanta Braves, who have lost 7 of their last 12 games, are going to be without Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna Jr. for the rest of the season. The starting rotation should be fine. They have Max Fried, a rejuvenated Chris Sale, and Charlie Morton. That's a really solid top 3. The offense, not so much. The Braves rank 12th in runs per game this season, and over their last 12, they're only averaging 3.58 runs per game. If they want to compete with the Phillies or the Dodgers come playoff time, they absolutely need an impact bat. 3 names to watch out for ahead of the deadline: Randy Arozarena, Luis Robert, and Jazz Chisholm Jr. Back to you, Craig.
Don't think the Marlins are going to trade Jazz Chisholm Jr. to the Atlanta Braves, Sam, right? I don't think that's going to happen. All right, but listen, but we appreciate Christian throwing the names out there. I personally don't see that happening. All right, now let's get back to some more baseball in London. In case you missed it, 2 very exciting games between the Philadelphia Phillies and New York Mets. In fact, the Mets scored 3 runs on the vaunted Phillies bullpen to end up getting the win. Philly's been fantastic in that spot, the 8th, the 9th, and even the 7th, but Alvarado blew it yesterday, and Carlos Mendoza, the manager of the Mets, talked about the incredible comeback.
Exciting, obviously we came out on the good side of things, right? But credit to the guys that continued to battling back, got down early in the game, and then good at-bats there in the 6th, I think, but then in the 9th inning, against a pretty good closer on Alvarado, Taylor leading off the inning, walks out a walk, then McNeil gets it going with a single up the middle, really another good at-bat against the lefty today, and setting up the table. But overall, good at-bats, and then, piecing it together. Reed Garrett gets one out there, gets in trouble, and then Drew Smith, comes in and continues to make pitches, and then that last play of the game for Torrens, what a great play. The instincts not to only go get the baseball, but having the ability to come back, touch the play, and then execute the throw. Unbelievable play, and, I'm glad we got the win there.
Yeah, baseball is growing, and fair to say, another huge success in London for that series. We'll be back with Mike Mazzeo from Legal Sports Report next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
4-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Mike Mazzeo is with us from Legal Sports Report. We're going to dive into the latest news in sports betting. Mike, we'll get into everything happening, and I know that there was a recent article that was just posted in USA Today about sports betting and the athletes and sort of how this is being perceived. But we are waiting on some other pieces of information today, and I wonder if we'll get it from the Los Angeles Lakers. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Craig. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Dan Hurley report from a sports betting perspective. Obviously, we know today he's supposed to make a decision over whether he will remain at UConn or go to the Lakers for a huge offer, potentially in the $100 million range. But the sports betting aspect of that is, again, the slippery slope that exists between sports journalism and sports betting. You had Shams Charania from the New York Times Athletic come out a week or two ago and say that J.J. Redick was the clear favorite for this job. That moved the line at FanDuel Canada to minus 160. We saw the line move then when Shams reiterated that stance and said he was a massive front runner to minus 210. DraftKings eventually took down the line when Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN reported that Hurley was the favorite all along, that Redick wasn't really in the mix. Even James Borrego, an assistant coach and former coach of the Hornets, I think he had 2 in-person interviews with the Lakers in LA, where Redick, I don't think, had reached that number. So, again, just the slippery slope that exists, not saying anything Shams doing is untoward. He has a great track record, but obviously in this case you had potentially sports journalism impacting the sports betting lines, which apparently, according to one journalist who's very prominent, obviously in Woj, said not even anywhere close to accurate. DraftKings and FanDuel had to take the line down, and now we'll see where this moves. But, again, this is just something after the Shohei Ohtani Toronto plane incident, another example of potentially that slippery slope that exists between sports journalism and sports betting. And, optically, at the very least, it's just not a good look.
Yeah, my conspiracy theory on this, Mike, I can give it to you, was that Redick was never a candidate to become the head coach of the Lakers, but but by putting his name out there now, Mike, maybe in the future he gets to be an NBA head coach. That was my conspiracy. LeBron pushing, his buddy in some way. That was my theory on it. I don't know if that's true or not. And I agree. I don't think he's going to be the Lakers head coach, but I think just by getting your name in the cycle, it creates an opportunity maybe in an avenue for the future, because people say, oh, well, he was possibly the Lakers head coach. Anyway, that's my conspiracy theory. Okay, so now let's get to Jontay Porter, the very latest in this saga. We had the guy last week trying to flee to Australia with money in the bag, getting out of town. And it seems like the defense attorney for Jontay Porter is now trying to at least come up with a story as to why he engaged in this illicit activity. I guess the question is, Mike, do you buy any of this?
Yeah, Craig, I don't know, honestly. All I can do is take them at their word that he had this gambling addiction. He was in over his head. I mean, it does seem like, given he had that FanDuel VIP account, he obviously knew how to bet. He knew probably prominent bettors, as we saw with these four co-conspirators that were named in this criminal complaint. Finally, all four names have been released. He apparently owed at least one of them money, and in exchange for that was going to do a quote-unquote, as sports betting lingo goes, a special where he would throw his performance and come out of games early with injuries in exchange for inside information where they could place, multiple parlay bets. We obviously saw the $80,000 one. We finally saw that the final co-conspirator allegedly gave the money to another co-conspirator to place that $80,000 bet that would have won over $1.1 million in net win. Fortunately, was flagged by DraftKings, sent to an integrity monitor, and then given to the FBI, and that's kind of how this investigation spawned. So, yeah, there are allegations right now, Craig. Do I believe it? I don't know. I mean, certainly, again, could this guy have had a gambling addiction? Sure. But then could he have gone about this in a different way, not gotten involved with this particular crew, paid the money a different way? Forgive me for, because, again, it probably would be illegal, but ask his brother, who's a superstar making hundreds of millions of dollars potentially to pay off his debt and not, throw his performance. I realize, again, that might implicate his brother, so maybe that's not the way you want to go. Yeah. But, could he have gone about this some other way? Potentially, yeah. I mean, in a better way, absolutely. And so, again, you're left with, a case that's going to continue to evolve. We'll see if the, wire fraud charges these guys are facing, whether they take a plea or it goes to trial, we'll see. But, a lot to unravel here. And, if you're an NBA player right now, you just cannot be getting mixed up in this, as Jontay Porter showed. You hope that Jontay Porter gets help. He's banned for life. You hope that he can move on with his life and find a productive way to live it out. He lost his dream, I'm sure, was to play in the NBA. So super disappointing. I think the NBA was lucky they didn't have a huge superstar player. It's a smaller name. And now we'll see if, the NBA and the legal sports books decide to ban these two-way markets. Certainly would make a lot of sense given what happened.
Yeah, and I do wonder if Porter could play internationally at any point. I guess that will be the next question years down the line. Popular player right now, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons. Okay, so a couple of columns come out this weekend. One from the Washington Post, one from USA Today, Mike, about the dangers of sports betting surrounding Major League Baseball. And naturally, this is not a huge surprise. I mean, now that sports betting is legal in a lot of places, fans are going to get unruly. They're going to get crazy. And this is because they're fans. I guess the question I would have for you, and in particular with the USA Today article, is, Mike, did you feel that this was over the top? Did you feel that that this was, a little bit, the articles were a little bit more than what's actually going on here? Because naturally, sports betting, Mike, let's keep it real, has been around for a really, really, really long time, just not in the legal market. So I would imagine maybe because it's legal, that's partially the reason here. What is your opinion on what you read?
Yeah, Craig, I can just only go by my own experience being in clubhouses and locker rooms for the whole, 2010s. I was a, sports reporter like you, traditional sports reporter. I don't think I heard one thing about this stuff. It was definitely going on, I'm sure, on the illegal offshore sites. But, now that it's so prevalent, I think the interesting comment was made by, maybe it was Paul Sewald, the Diamondbacks. He said, now everybody's a fan, but they're not really a fan of teams. Now they're a fan of their bets. And so then that, if people are betting too much money and they're losing those bets, that could potentially fall on the players in terms of, how much money people owe. And the players are saying they're getting Venmo requests. They had to change their Venmo name or put it to private. You saw one general manager say he was getting threats and the police had to be getting involved. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's something where you hope that the players don't do it. We did see a player violate it. Chelsea Janes of the Washington Post to talk to, I think, Carlos Mendoza, who said they just took an online course, and Joey Gallo of the Nationals, who said, yeah, we get it at this point. We know we can't bet. But obviously, I mean, you give it to 25 guys and the minor leaguers on 30 teams, and somebody's violating it. And unfortunately, that happened. And so we saw a lifetime ban and saw the Ohtani scandal. Thankfully, he was cleared by the federal authorities. He's not involved. Baseball can't afford to have a player of that magnitude, I think, be involved in something like this. It's totally different when you have a shortstop, a fringe player that's involved, and another when you have the face of your sport involved. So, yeah, I think you have to continue to educate these players, take the appropriate actions. We did see a 2021 arrest, as Bob Nightingale pointed out, for a fan who, went over the line. He threatened players, said he would dismember their bodies and stuff like that. I mean, that's insane talk. And so he didn't, I think, as Bob pointed out, he didn't even get a day in jail for it. He was reprimanded, but not to that extent. So perhaps the penalties need to be harsher to make sure if you're a fan or player, as we saw with the lifetime ban, you do this, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. I mean, that's to lose your dream or potentially your livelihood and end up in jail. I mean, I think there has to be, significant sanctions on this, significant discipline, so that this prevents from happening in the future.
Yeah, or max out the player props, which is what I've been yelling about here on this show for a long time. All right, let's get to the Belmont Stakes in Saratoga. What did the handle look like this weekend, Mike?
Yeah, so all sorts of handle for the Belmont, which was in Saratoga. Obviously, it's usually on Long Island, but the track on Long Island is being renovated here. Very exciting. That'll be way nicer than it was. But it was $125 million, which is the highest for a non-Triple Crown race. I think it was 6% up from last year. So Jim Gazzelli is our horse racing expert. I don't want to sound like a horse racing expert, but at least to give you the numbers as a baseline. Super exciting that people continue to love this event, and they're placing a lot of bets on it, and it's a great revenue stream and a tax stream for both states and sports books.
All right, Mike, great to catch up with you. Thanks for coming on.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
3-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Well, the NBA Finals is off to a pretty disappointing start, to be honest. You never want to see a team go up 2-0 because it means we could be in line for a sweep. They always say the series begins when the road team wins, and Coach Young is here with us. And Coach, I mean, I know you like Dallas to open this thing up, so I guess the floor is yours here. I mean, you could get some really nice plus money here if you think Dallas can come back and win the series. And I've been around this game long enough to know that it's far from over. I mean, Dallas wins the next game, all of a sudden they win the fourth, and then everything changes. But I guess what were your impressions in watching game 1 and game 2, which did not come down to like the final minute or two of the game?
Craig, great to be on with you as always. Very simply put, if Dallas is going to even make this a series, let alone try and win it, Kyrie Irving, Craig, must be much better. Kyrie Irving is only averaging 14 points per game. But Kyrie Irving at one time, folks, was a 50-40-90 person. If you don't know what that means, it means 50% from the floor, 40% from three, 90% from the line. He has been pedestrian at best. PJ Washington has been their second best player. Now, we can sit here and talk about how great, I know he took the blame, which is ludicrous, because if Luka doesn't do what Luka does, they lose by 25 last night.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important for people to understand. You have to have both Luka and Kyrie cooking and getting you probably about, I would say, 50 to 55 points for them to have a chance to win. Because what you're seeing, folks, is on the other side, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they really scored a ball much last night. Game number 1, Jason Tatum didn't score the ball that much. But when Porzingis can give you 20 in game 1, if Drew Holiday can give you 24, 26 and 11, whatever it was last night, if Derek White can hit big shots, if Al Horford could stretch the floor. See, what people have to realize is Kyrie and Luka have to be so much better in their matchup versus Tatum versus Brown, because on the other side, the other 3 starters and Porzingis are going to outscore the other 3 starters of Dallas, Jones, Gafford, and Washington, along with Lively. So if you can't get Kyrie to play up here and bring Luka with him and make them so much better than Tatum and Brown, you can't win. No matter how great Luka is, because he needs Kyrie to be the Kyrie Irving that we think he should be playing like, not the Kyrie that's playing right now in the finals.
Yeah, and I know Kyrie on the way out was putting up the 5 for see you back in game 5. And Coach, I know that we have a couple of days before the game, so certainly you'll be all over SportsGrid and you can change your opinion. But this is basically, this is it here, Coach. Like, I don't think if Dallas loses this game, they have any chance to win the NBA Finals. They are slight favorites. My guess is by the time the game goes off, it's going to be pick'em, or they'll be a 1-point favorite. Do you want to flip here, or do you want to stick with Dallas? What do you want to do?
I'm going to play this game by game, and I'm going to take Dallas on the money line to win. Because I do think maybe, you got to realize, folks, and I just forgot about this until this morning. There was an incident years ago when Kyrie was a member of the Brooklyn Nets, when Kyrie stomped on the logo of the leprechaun of the Boston Garden, or the TD Bank Garden. Craig, he hasn't won a game in Boston since. He's 0-12. So to me, it's got to get better for Kyrie. I think they find a way to get game 3. I wouldn't be stunned if they won both. And then you're looking at 2-2 back to Boston in game number 5. But if I'm Kyrie, don't put up the 5 up for game 5. Do yourself a favor. Worry about playing better and winning game number 3.
Yeah, and hopefully so. Look, we all want to see a competitive series. No one wants to see a sweep or 4-1 or anything like that. Okay, so we got a couple off days here. I'm guessing the Lakers are going to, at least find out if Dan Hurley's going to coach them. It does seem to me, to read everything that I've read and seen, that he is the favorite still to be the Lakers head coach. Coach, there's a lot of different ways that this can go. The longer it goes, the less optimistic, I suppose, that you would say that things could be. Also, I think money's got to be a factor here. What is your opinion as to why this is kind of dragged at this point? Because in our news cycle, once we hear a rumor, usually within 24 hours, it becomes a fact.
Well, basically, Craig, obviously we all know that Dan Hurley went out Friday to LA, flew back, and it's been holed up. I tried to reach out to people that I know that are close enough to the Hurley family that can kind of give me a little bit of the thought process. And I'll be honest with you, even reaching out this morning, he's struggling. He's in the dark right now, and his staff doesn't even know if he's leaving or not, right? And it's one of these things where it's also about a contingency plan, right? Kamani Young is an up-and-coming coach. He's got New York City ties, and he's Dan Hurley's right-hand man. I think he wants, if he leaves, Dan, that Kamani becomes the head coach of UConn. The problem that you're having is the UConn AD has a lot of ties to Bruce Pearl. So if you're Dan Hurley and you're thinking about, and he's very loyal, Craig, this is someone that when he was at URI would flip back and forth before deciding to not take the Rutgers job. Then he gets a UConn job. He flip-flopped back and forth. He's loyal to his family, Andrea and the kids. He's loyal to his players. He's a Northeast guy. He's loyal to his staff. But the allure of the NBA may be too much to bear. I think he ends up taking it, but I think he's going to drag this on as long as he can. And Dan knows he's got to make a decision today. My sense and my thinking still, and at least people I talk to, I think he's going to take the job, but I think he's trying to line everyone else. If Kamani Young is not going to get the job, he may take Kamani and his whole staff and take him with him.
But why does he have to make a decision today? Did I miss something?
Well, I just think it's time. It's dragged on too much. He's taken a whole weekend. He flew back home on Friday, so you figure he talked to the family. I'm sure there's going to be a meeting some point today. There was supposed to be one yesterday. He didn't do it. Decision day is here, and it's going to happen whether he goes to the Lakers or not.
All right, we'll find out. Coach Young with us. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
3-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We'll have plenty of coverage of the upcoming U.S. Open later this week, so make sure you stay tuned to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. But as we wrap up the show, before we send it over to the early line, it's time now for us to discuss a bunch of different topics, including NBA expansion, the idea of microphones during games, and also pitch counts for young athletes in baseball. It's time now for some last licks. All right, we flip over the first card. We get the NBA in last licks to begin. And why? Because Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, alluded to the fact that the league is getting ready to expand again. And why not? $70 billion coming in TV revenue, insane numbers. Why not expand? And Silver did tip his hand a little bit in talking at the NBA Finals yesterday, saying that the potential places where the NBA would expand would be, no surprise, Las Vegas being number one. Las Vegas is going to have an NBA team first. Of course, we know that. How about the NBA potentially returning to Seattle, where they had a ton of success for a long time? I think there are a lot of folks out there that wonder even why they left Seattle to go to Oklahoma City, but Seattle would get a new franchise. The Sonics would come back again. But the third one was a little peculiar because he did mention the fact that they could have an expansion outside of the U.S. and play in Mexico City. So that would be an intriguing spot to have an additional franchise there. Now, naturally, when they do expand, it's usually one per conference. So that would make two different expansion franchises, one for the East and one for the West. But I guess the idea would be having to move a team in realignment from the West to the East because, of course, Seattle and Las Vegas are both located out west. So which team in the West could go to the East? I guess wait and see. We'll find out. All right, we start there, and now we move over to the idea of having our players talk during broadcasts in games. We've seen this happen a lot. We saw it happen with Kike Hernandez of the Los Angeles Dodgers over the weekend as they had a microphone on Kike, which is, of course, a great idea. But unfortunately, while he was doing his little discussion back and forth with the broadcasters, Kike got a little distracted and committed an error. Now, everyone, of course, is going to jump on here and say we shouldn't have this because the players could make mistakes. But this is some of the best broadcast stuff in the industry, seeing these players mic'd up during games. And look, how many years have we been doing it? In baseball, it's got to be at least 3 years we've been doing this, maybe even 4. And this is the first time that this has ever happened. So let's not be prisoners of the moment and just accept that once out of every, 100 times, maybe a player gets distracted. And it was really interesting to see the broadcasters just kind of go silent there for a while because they realized he was distracted and made a mistake. But Kike's a pro. Life will go on, and hopefully this will not cause them to stop this in the future. Okay, well, this was an interesting social media post that was made over the weekend by former big leaguer C.J. Nitkowski, who says that on Game Changer, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Game Changer is an app that tracks the scores, the pitches, and the play-by-play for all young kids. You can sign up for this app, and just like the Major League Baseball app, this is for kids playing in Little League Baseball or travel baseball. Even high schools use it, and even colleges too, where it's, you go to an app and you can see exactly what the kids are doing, what the score is, and you can track their performance. Well, over the weekend, it looks like there was a pitcher, at least according to this Game Changer app, that threw 117 pitches at the age of 13 years old. And by the way, this little kid gave up 17 runs that he gave up in the game? Now, as somebody that uses the Game Changer app a lot, that is me. And as somebody who has a son that pitches in travel ball at 11 years old, that is me. I can tell you that I don't even think you're allowed to throw 117 pitches in a game. I think that's straight up breaking all of the rules. I believe for my son at 11 years old, the most that he can throw is 85 in a single game. I think he may have hit that a couple of times. And believe me, I'm super nervous when this is going on. I'm the one that has to be and I'm on the field usually to say, hey, that enough is enough. To think 117 pitches, which is more than I think anybody's thrown in a single Major League Baseball game this season. Whew. That coach has got to be in some trouble. And this poor kid, he's going to need to throw, I don't know if he's righty, but he's going to have to throw lefty, I think, from now on, because this is just not, I'm being facetious here, but this is not something that should be allowed to happen. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Coming up next, we got the early line. That, of course, is followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast. He's in the house here for this Monday, so stay tuned for that. That's coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern. Then Game Time Decisions and In-Game Live. Again, thanks to all of our guests for coming on the program today, including Mike Mazzeo and Coach Young and Matt Lutovsky. For our producer, Sam, filling in for Mike today, I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll see you tomorrow for our next edition of News Talk.